We're going to look at simple interest. So interest is money that you either earn, like if you're putting money in the bank and you're earning an interest, or if you are borrowing money. The way a company is going to make money is if they charge you interest. So it's more money you will owe to a company. So simple interest is just the interest paid on a loan with an annual rate for a certain number of years. So to find that simple interest, we'll use a formula, I equals PRT, where P is a principal amount, R is that annual rate, and T is the time. So let's look at the simple interest on this. So we have a principal amount of $4,000, an annual interest rate of 5.5%. So let's make that a usable decimal, so 0.055. And we're going to do it for 4 years. I'm just going to multiply all three of these numbers. And that'll give me the interest. So $880. Let's do another one. So the interest on this $14,800 principal with a rate of 7.9%. So as a usable decimal, that's 0.079. And then the time is 7 years. And then we'll multiply all three of these numbers for an interest of $8,184.40. All right, so we can find the interest and then find the total amount we would be having the loan. So Riley runs an auto repair shop, needs to purchase a new brake lathe. It costs almost $12,000. We're taking out a 2-year simple interest loan with a rate of 14.9%. How much interest will she pay, and what's the total she's going to have to repay? So we need to find the interest. So that's that PRT. So the principal amount is that $11,995 times the rate, so 0.149, and the time is 2 years. And multiplying all three of these numbers is going to give $3,574.51. And the total is the original loan amount, so $11,995, plus the interest, so $3,574.51. So we get a total of $15,569.51. Right. Let's see, we're opening a gym, a 4-month loan of $20,000 with a rate of 6.75%. How much interest will they pay, and what's the loan payoff amount? So the interest, our principal amount that we're borrowing is that $20,000. The interest rate is 0.0675, and we're doing it for 4 months. So we can think of doing this in 2 different ways. We can say, hey, that 6.75% is for the entire year. So we can divide that into how many months are in a year. And then I can multiply it by the number of months that we're using it for. Or we can take and divide the months, the 4 out of 12 months. Either way, it's going to work out to be the same. So this interest, if I multiply all of these, is going to give me $450. So the total is that $20,000 plus the $450 in interest. So a total of $20,450. Okay. So we're going to borrow $8,400 to make some repairs. Simple interest for 17.33% for 6 months. So what's the interest and then the total? So the interest is the principal amount times the rate, so 0.1733, and then for 6 months. So I can either divide the 12 here or I can divide it here. Doesn't matter. So either way, I get an interest, if I multiply all of those, of $727.86. And then we'll add on the original $8,400 for a total of $9,127.86. All right, so that happens if it's all in months. It's potential that you could do it by day. So same formula. We can divide by the 365 days in a year, by the rate, or by the time. So it does not matter. All right, we're moving from Raleigh, North Carolina to Tempe, Arizona. The company is going to reimburse after the move. So he does his research to determine it's going to cost $5,600 to move the family out to Tempe. So simple interest loan, 45 days, 11.75%. And how much interest will be paid on it? And then what is the total? So the interest is the principal amount, so $5,600 times the rate, so 0.1175, and then it's 45 days, so 45 out of 365, for a grand total interest of $81.13. And then we'll just add that to the $5,600 principal amount. So we get $5,681.13. Okay. Let's look at future value. So like investing money. So future value is a nice, kind of the same formula, to be honest. We have a principal amount plus any interest that was earned. So it's the principal amount plus that interest, which we've been doing the formula, PRT. So it's just doing it all in one step. So it says in the following, determine how much interest was earned on the investment and then find the future value. So the interest is still that PRT, so 1,000, an annual rate of 2.01, so 0.0201, and then 5 years. So let's multiply all of those numbers together. So let's see. 1,000 times 0.0201 times 5 gives me an interest of $100.50. So the total future value is that $100.50 plus the original $1,000. So 1,100 and then 50 cents. Let's do another one. So the principal's $5,000, annual interest rate. And for all of these, let's just do it all at once. So we want the future value. So that's the principal. I'm going to write it up here. Future value is the principal plus the interest, which is PRT. So 5,000 plus 5,000 times 0.0185 times that 30 years. So we'll have 5,000 plus, and I'll get what that interest is. So 5,000 times 0.0185 times 30, which is 2,775. And then plus that 5,000 gives us a total of $7,775. Yeah, it's crazy when you're trying to invest money. Notice how the percentages are low compared to the sales tax rates or the loan amount rates. It's crazy. So we have 10,000 plus our interest, so 10,000 times 0.0125 for 18 months. So 18 out of 12. Let's plug that in a calculator. And I get the interest is $187.50 for a grand total of $10,187.50. We have 7,000 plus 7,000 times 0.0326, and then 100 days. So 100 out of 365. So 7,000, and the interest is I'm gonna round $62.52. So a grand total of $7,062.52. All right. So let's see, we deposit $2,500 in a CD bearing 3.25% simple interest for 3 years. How much will he receive? So all right, that's that 2,500 plus 2,500 times 0.0325 times 3. If you want to plug this in the calculator all in one step, that's totally fine. I've always broken it up. So then adding these two, we get $2,743.75. All right, interest paid in a partial payment on a loan. So a simple interest loan for $6,500 is taken out with a 12.6 annual percentage rate. A partial payment is made 45 days into the loan period. How much of the partial payment will be for interest? So interest is that principal amount times that rate, and then it's 45. So the interest, 6,500 times 0.126 times 45 out of 365 is $100, and we'll round, 97 cents. So that's how much is going to go to interest. So we have 13,700 this time with a rate of 6.55%. Now we're doing making a payment after 60 days. So the interest, let's see, is that principal amount times the interest rate, and then 60 out of 365. Which gives me 147.51. Let's figure out what the remaining balance is after a partial payment. So simple interest loan, $45,500 is taken out at 11.8%. Partial payment of $20,000 is made 50 days into the loan period. After this payment, what's the remaining balance? So we want to find the interest. So the interest is the 45,500 times the rate, so 0.118, and then we're doing it for 50 days. So 45,500 times 0.118 times 50 out of 365. I'll round this number, 735. We'll go 4.48. So the payment, $735 of it is going towards interest. So I'm going to take that $20,000 and I'm going to subtract off 735.48. So we get $19,264.52. So that's how much is actually going to paying down the loan. So I'll take the loan amount, the $45,500, and subtract off the $19,264.52. and we'll get $26,235.48 left to pay on the loan. Let's do another one. Find the interest. So the interest is $150,000. The rate is 0.0585, and it's 70 days. So there's interest, let's see, is $1,682.88. A partial payment of $50,000 was made, so we'll take that $50,000 and subtract off the $1,682.88. So $48,317.12 is what went to paying off the loan. So we'll take that $150,000 and subtract off the $48,317.12. For a total of $101,682.88 left to be paying off that loan. All right, finding the payoff after a partial. So Laura takes out $18,400 loan for 120 days at 17.9 simple interest. She makes a partial payment after 45 days. What's her payoff amount at the end of the loan? All right, so let's find what we've been doing, and then we'll find what's left. So, gotta find the interest. So, 18,400, 0.179, and 45 days. So if I multiply these 18,400 times 1.179 times 45 out of 365, I get $406, and we'll say 6 cents. So then we'll take that 7,500, subtract off the amount that's going to interest. 7,500 minus 406.06 leaves me with $7,093.94 going towards the loan. So, all right, 18,400 minus 7,093.94 to get 11,306.06. But now, so that's how much we would owe on the loan, but we still have some time left in it. So my guess is if we're making a $7,500 payment, we don't have the rest of that 11,306, or we probably would have paid it all off right then and there. So we need to find the interest left on the loan. So the interest left, as we're going to take that principal amount, the new one, now that we've made a payment, so 11,306.06 times the interest rate times the remaining time. So it was 120 days. It's been 45. So let's see, 120 minus 45 leaves 75 days. So let's say we're paying it off then. So that interest, let's see, 11,306.06 times the interest times the days left gives me 4,216, and we'll round to 22 cents. So I have to add that to that 11,306.06. So 421622 plus 11,306.06 gives me a lot more than I was expecting. Hang on. That's because in my calculator I typed in 36, not 365. So that is my bad. So the interest is actually 415 and 85 cents. So it does make a big difference with what you're dividing by. So we'll take that 415.85 plus 11,306.06 for a total of 11,721 and 86 cents. So that's how much we would have to pay off at the end. All right, and that is all for simple interest. So let me know if you have any questions.